William Shakespeare's romantic drama, Romeo and Juliet, is typically perceived as a classic love story. However, Romeo's mental instability questions the authenticity of the true love between a pair of star-crossed lovers. She hath forsworn to love, and that now do I live dead that live to tell it now.
Be ruled by me, forget to think of her.
Oh, teach me how to forget of her.
By giving liberty unto thine eyes, examine other beauties.
He that is stricken blind cannot forget the precious treasure of his eyesight lost.
We start off showing the audience Act 1, Scene 1, where Romeo and Benvolio are talking about Rosaline and how Romeo's really depressed that she left him. So why is this so important?
Well, I think it's important because it's only Act 1 of the play, and if Romeo's already this unstable from the beginning and he's not able to control his emotions, his downfall's just going to come way faster and his death is just going to be inevitable.
Adding on to this, though the scene seems so simplistic, Shakespeare made this our first impression of Romeo, and I feel it's that way to set up for this inevitable downfall that Romeo is going to face.
The diction Romeo uses when he says this, he uses waste, starved, severity, and cuts. I feel like this is all contributes to the idea that he is depressed inside and that this is the start of all the cracks.
Romeo also says, "He that is stricken blind cannot forget the precious treasure of his eyesight lost." So he's comparing losing Rosaline to losing his eyesight. And I feel that's very extreme. Like, he's basically cutting himself off from the rest of the world and all the other beauties that the world is offering him just because he got rejected. Like, throughout life, many times people are going to get rejected, and I feel like that's just something that comes with love, and he can't face that.
And your eyesight is something that's very, it's something you should treasure, and the fact that he's comparing Rosaline to losing his eyesight, it's like, if he loses Rosaline, he feels like there's nothing left of him.
He kind of makes it sound like she, takes it from him. Like, she took, because, our eyes are, the windows to our soul, so it's like she took that, and now no one can really see who he really is.
Oh, she doth teach the torches to burn bright. It seems she hangs upon the cheek of night, like a rich jewel in an Ethiopia, beauty too rich for use, for earth too dear. So shows a snowy dove trooping with crows, for I never saw the beauty till this night. If I profane with mine worthiest hand to this holy shrine the gentle finest this, my lips two blushing pilgrims ready stand to smooth that rough touch with a tender kiss.
Good pilgrim, you do wrong your hand too much, which mannerly devotion shows in this. For saints have hands that pilgrims' hands do touch, and palm to palm is holy palmer's kiss.
Have not saints lips and holy palmers too?
Aye, pilgrim, lips that they use in prayer.
Oh, then, dear saint, let lips do what hands do. They pray, grant thou, lest faith turn to despair.
Saints do not move, though grant for prayer's sake.
Then move not, while my prayer's effect I take.
This scene is where Romeo meets Juliet for the first time, and he just totally forgets about all the heartbreak he has with Rosaline and everything, and just completely falls head over heels for Juliet.
So then when Romeo meets Juliet, is she just sort of a replacement or a fulfillment of this unobtainable figure?
I wouldn't say that she's necessarily a replacement, but she becomes the face of that ideal, because she's the one that he can access. She's the one that he is able to interact with, and so he turns her into that ideal woman that he desires.
So there's a huge contrast from this scene and the scene we did last time. So the scene we did last time, there's very dark diction, and there's a huge contrast because after seeing Juliet, the first thing Romeo says is, "Oh, she doth teach the torches to burn bright. So now there's this play on light and darkness. So he's like now in a light frame of mind just because he saw Juliet, and he doesn't even truly know her yet. So he's basing all of this on just first appearance.
Example for like a contrast between light and dark, Shakespeare uses a sentence, and it starts with "as a rich jewel in an Ethiop's ear." So he's comparing like a bright jewel, something like that's pure, to something like an Ethiop's ear, something that's dark-skinned and dark tone. He also uses like, "so shows a snowy dove chirping with crows." So then again, a comparison between something so pure like a dove and something that kind of signifies death.
When Romeo identifies himself as a pilgrim and Juliet as a saint, he puts her upon a pedestal. And I feel like that's why their relationship was unable to work out. And I think people in the real world these days, when you place your partner on a pedestal, you're giving them the power. And I feel like when you give someone else the power, the relationship isn't supposed to work out. You're supposed to be equal.
So like basically him placing her on this pedestal, it's unequal. The relationship is already unequal, and he's even putting himself below her. So that just shows that the relationship is going to fall. Like that pedestal is going to be broke until they're on equal footing.
And plainly know my heart's dear love is set on the fair daughter of rich Capulet. I pray that thou consentest to marry us today.
Holy Saint Francis, what a change is here! Is Rosaline, whom thou didst love so dear, so soon forsaken? Young men's love then lies not truly in their hearts, but in their eyes.
In this scene, Romeo goes to Friar Lawrence because he wants to marry Juliet. And at first, Friar Lawrence questions him, but he ends up allowing them to get married. Romeo, like, the way he thinks, it's so rash that that's how it contributes to his mental instability.
In this passage, he asks, like, "For so soon forsaken, like, you've forgotten Rosaline," referring to her. And then he also says, like, "young men's love then lies, like, not truly in their hearts, but in their eyes." So he's, like, referring again to, like, Romeo only sees, he doesn't actually, like, feel, like, love for her.
Getting married means that Romeo will not be left like when Rosaline left him. That marriage solidifies the connection forever, and that like almost makes up for Romeo's insecurity.
But I feel like the way that, like, how quickly he's acting in wanting to marry Juliet, I feel like that devalues the idea of marriage, because I don't think Romeo thinks of all the time and commitment that he has to put into this relationship with her. And, like, the reason that he wants Juliet is because he just wants that temporary satisfaction.
The families are in a feud, so, like, they think that if they could get married, then, like, everything will, like, die down and it'll be okay. But, like, in reality, like, it just makes things worse.
Romeo, the love I bear thee can afford no better turn than this. Thou art a villain.
Tybalt, the reason that I love thee doth much excuse the appertaining rage. To such a greeting, villain, I am none. Therefore farewell, I see thou knowest me not.
Turn and draw.
I do protest, I have never injured thee, but love thee better than thou canst devise.
Oh, calm, dishonorable vile submission. Alice O'Gara carries it away. Dibble, you red catcher, will you walk? What wouldst thou have with me? Good king of cats, nothing but one of your 9 lives. I am for you.
Gentle Mercutio, put thy rapier up! Draw, Benvolio, beat down the weapons! Good Mercutio! Mercutio!
Romeo, brave Mercutio's dead!
This day's black faith on more days doth depend. This but begins the woe, others must end.
Here comes the furious Tybalt back again!
Alive in triumph, then Mercutio slain, away to heaven, respective lenity, and fire-eyed fury, be my conduct now. Now, Tybalt, thine to keep him company. Either thou or I or both must go with him. Shall determine that.
This scene, Romeo is caught in between, choosing two different sides when Tybalt is fighting Mercutio. So it causes him to be like mentally and physically in between two sides of the family. But he ends up taking sides when Tybalt kills Mercutio, and he sets out to get revenge by killing Tybalt.
I feel basically that due to him being between Mercutio and Tybalt, it just shows how much more conflict there is between the two families than there originally was. And it's weighing more on his mental instability now than it has ever. Due to that, because he has to choose sides between his newlywed's family and his original family, that causes more strain upon himself and kind of tears him to each side that he wants to be a part. And thus, by the time when Tybalt actually finally does kill Mercutio, that kind of just sets off, oh, I'm going to be on Mercutio's side and on my original family side. My dear friend has just died, and I have to take back, and I have to put on a revenge code just to take back and like avenge him, basically.
Adding on to that, at the beginning of the scene he says he loves Tybalt, and then at the end of the scene he ultimately kills Tybalt. This shows how mentally unstable Romeo is and how fast he can change his state of mind. And when someone can change their state of mind so quickly, they cannot be stable. Wise is it Romeo says, "This day's black fate on more days doth depend. This but begins the woo, others must end." So it's going back from the beginning of the play when there was dark diction. He meets Juliet, and then it goes to light, and then now it's back to dark again. So Romeo has never had like a stable state of mind. He's always flip-flopping, so he never really knows who he truly is, and neither does the audience.
Here, to my love. Thus, with a kiss, I die.
So in this last scene, Romeo uses Juliet's death as like an excuse to take his own life, and I think that that's like the downfall, like the breaking point of Romeo at this point in the story, because there's like so many things going on in his life, like multiple tragedies, just like Rosaline leaving him, and then like you have like the
death of Mercutio,
yeah,
killing of Tybalt, and also like his banishment as well.
It just goes along with like his mental instability.
And through all these tragedies that Romeo endured, he was able to find a way to escape from these problems. But now in this last scene, like looking at the lifeless Juliet, he's finally facing reality. Like, this is what reality is, and Juliet is the only thing that he really has, and now he sees her as gone. And his way of escaping this problem is by taking his own life.
And in each tragedy, he always talked about light or dark. So he would always have a comparison between the two. He refers to like seeing Juliet's lifeless as a dim night, and like night could never be dim because it's either light or dark. So his mental like capacity right now is just confused.
Okay. Well, also continuing that, I feel like the dramatic irony as the audience, we as humans as well, we're seeing this transformation of this man, this young man, and all of a sudden now he's in the verge of death, basically due to all the things that he experienced. We as human beings also do have a level where we can endure that much amount of grief and pain. And now that we're seeing this human transform from a young man who has an aspiring life, just basically got dumped in the beginning of the play, turn into a suicidal man, we're seeing this just change due to all these mental and like influences on his mind, and now we're just seeing basically a person breaking apart. In connection to our original thesis, Romeo's mental instability showed how he had not authentically loved Juliet. In a real-world connection, a human being needs to have a stable and strong sense of mind before they do something as life-changing as falling in love. Romeo was unable to do that, and thus led to his own suicide and how his mental instability ruined him.